Hey everyone, Steve Adubato. This is Lessons in Leadership. That's right, I'm alone right now. Don't worry, Mary's going to be with us in just a few minutes, right after this segment with our friend, Dr. Ken Sable. But I want to introduce Ken officially. He's Dr. Ken Sable. He is president of Acute Care Hospital Division at Hackensack Meridian Health, also assistant dean for integration at the Hackensack Meridian School of Medicine. Good to see you, doctor.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Hey, doctor, do you admit that you also have an MBA?
Absolutely. I'm proud of that.
Okay, why an MD? And by the way, let me disclose, I do a lot of leadership and communication coaching at HMH, the Physician Leadership Academy at HMH. I've been facilitating for years, that Ken knows well. Why an MBA and an MD?
Well, Steve, the MD is the medical doctor degree, and that allowed me to, begin my clinical career to see patients and take care of patients at the bedside. As I developed my career as an emergency physician, 25 years ago, I realized I was very interested in the business side as well. And in order to formalize my training, I thought it would be, beneficial to go back to school, get an official degree, an MBA, and it's really allowed me to propel my administrative executive career as well.
Okay, you and I had an offline conversation recently, and I was asking you, because as you know, as a student of leadership, I try to understand it. I make mistakes at it all the time, coach it, write about it. But I'm thinking to myself, emergency room physician leader and leader in the C-suite at HMH, what's the difference?
To me, leadership is universal. There are things about leadership that apply whether you're owning your own ice cream shop or whether you're running a billion-dollar corporation. Things about just being trustworthy, showing up, caring about your people, doing the right thing. Those things, really apply no matter what business you're in.
You may not remember this, Ken, but you said something to me recently. I have these little stones around here to remind me to breathe, which is important, Ken, as an MD. It is important to breathe, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah.
Oxygen is good.
The other one says, stay calm. You said to me, we were talking about something in the emergency room, and you said a while back, I don't know if you were in residency, I'm not sure where you were at the time, and an emergency room physician yelled out what in the middle of a procedure?
Well, we was in the middle of a trauma code while I was a resident, or actually I was a medical student at the time. And the attending physician yelled out, stop, shut up, everybody should be quiet. The only voice I want to hear is my own, which was very surprising to hear at the time. And I was really taken aback by that in the moment.
So along those lines, staying calm when there's a crisis, when there's an emergency, when things are really tense, how the heck did you learn to do that? Because I don't bat 1,000 when it comes to that.
I think it's practice. It's practice. It's muscle memory. And just like you, Steve, we're not perfect either. And I'm not perfect. And I'm sure over the years, I was violating some of those same rules of leadership as well. But I think what I've learned is that when you see the way people react, that's powerful in terms of whether they're going to follow you or not. And if you make people feel, anxious or concerned or afraid, they're not going to be real with you. They're not going to tell you the truth. And in a situation where you have, seconds to make decisions and minutes, and you have some subject matter experts in the room, you want to hear what they really think. Otherwise, you may make the wrong decision.
It's interesting. You and I have worked together and known each other for years now, but I've always been fascinated. Why medicine for you, A and B? Why HMH?
Well, medicine, I think my earliest recollection is when I was 8 years old. My grandmother was dying of cancer, and I remember visiting her in the hospital and seeing the vision of what was going on and all the people trying to help her, and the smells of the hospital. And I was a little afraid, actually. I was scared. And I remember thinking, as I was growing older, that I wanted to overcome that fear. I wanted to be able to help people, and I wanted to overcome the fear that I felt as an 8-year-old. And what better way to do that than to become a physician to help other people and work in a hospital to get over, they say people who are afraid of elevators, some people avoid them. Some people just get right in and jump in and overcome it. And I think that's always been my mentality.
Why HMH?
HMH is a wonderful network in New Jersey and around the country, as you know, Steve. HMH is the largest, most comprehensive healthcare system in New Jersey. I think I align with our vision, our mission, our values around keep getting better, which is our tagline. In fact, that line is a line I use frequently. I modify it slightly. I always tell people and my team we should be better tomorrow than we are today. And the idea is no matter where you start off, if you start here, you can always improve to be better to here. So I really resonate with the mission and vision of HMH.
So the whole idea, one of the books I have here is a book by the great coach Bob Hurley, who coached at St. Anthony's, that doesn't exist anymore in Jersey City. The father of Danny Hurley, who won a couple national championships. We did actually a feature with Ian O'Connor, who wrote a biography of Dan Hurley. Check that out on our sister series, One-on-One. But the book is called Chasing Perfect. Vince Lombardi, the great coach of the Green Bay Packers, once said, you can chase perfect, and in the process, you may trip on excellence. Is perfect achievable as a leader, Ken?
No. Perfect is not achievable. And, I would argue that, I'm a lifelong learner, and we're all lifelong learners. And, they say that even the best athletes in the world, Tiger Woods and Michael Jordan, they all had coaches, right? Because no matter how good they were, and they were the best at their craft in the entire world, but they still wanted to get better. And the other thing is everybody else is trying to get better around you. So if you're not trying to get better, you're just going to stay here while everybody else is going to catch up to you. So I think it's important to always try to, achieve excellence, but you're never going to get there.
Last question, because I've been doing this leadership coaching in the Physician Leadership Academy at HMH, and I've gotten to meet so many great physician leaders over the last 6 or 7 years. I often think about the medical school where you, in fact, are engaged. What is the message you have for young future physicians when it comes to leadership? Because leadership itself is not part of the curriculum, but it's implied. What do you tell them about physician leadership when they're in medical school?
I think it's more about connecting to one patient at a time. My message for medical students is, don't try to save the world. Pay attention to the patient in front of you, because we're so distracted by, our phones and all the technology. And at the end of the day, somebody is coming to see you because they're vulnerable. And as an emergency physician, I don't have a relationship with patients who come to see me. I'm meeting them for the first time. I don't know them. They don't know me. It's not like we have a 20-year relationship. And they don't wake up in the morning. I always say that people don't wake up in the morning and say, I really want to go to the emergency department today. So I have 30 seconds to build rapport with a patient. And being able to do that and connect to purpose and really listen. Why is this patient here? Is so critical to be able to be effective at what you're doing. Now, I think that leadership extends from that. I think that you learn how to connect with people, you learn how to treat people, you learn how to care about people, and ultimately you watch what people do and you watch what people do that you don't like, and you form your own leadership style through that.
Well said, Dr. Ken Sable. Ken, we appreciate you joining us as part of our Healthcare Leaders in Healthcare series. We will have other leaders from HMH and other healthcare systems, nurses, physicians, people involved in the healthcare, complex, challenging world of healthcare who are in fact leaders. Ken, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Steve. Stay warm.
I will. We're doing this in the dead of winter. By the way, don't worry. Right after this, Mary Gamba will be back. Stay with us. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, NJ Transit, the North Ward Center, O'Toole Scrivo, Gingoli Construction, New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the HELIX, Fedway Associates Inc., the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, inspiring great minds to greater purpose since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.
Great drive fuels the leaders of tomorrow and today. Great vision paves the way for a brighter future. Great ambition goes places, moving onward and upward. Great empathy finds strength in kindness and in each other, working together to create something bigger than they ever imagined. Great minds can change the world, and great minds start at Seton Hall.
Welcome back to Lessons in Leadership. Mary Gamba is back in the house. Mary, did you miss me when I started the show alone?
I did miss you. It always makes me so sad to not start the show with you, but I really appreciate being brought in for the second half of the show today.
Yeah, and also we brought in the big guns, if you will. Chris Paladino, back in the house. This is part of our series, Discovery and Innovation in New Jersey. Chris is president of New Brunswick Development Corporation, otherwise known as DevCo. Chris, how we doing, buddy?
Great to be back. Trying to stay warm, but fighting the fight.
My wife said recently, this was before it got really cold. We're taping this in the middle of January. She said, I love the seasons. I love the seasons. I said, really, I'd like spring to come. And then it got to be 4 degrees. And she said, I can't stand the cold. I said, what about the seasons? Never mind. It was not a good discussion. Chris, remind people what the HELIX is. We're going to show some video of the HELIX because we started this conversation a few years ago. Tremendous progress taking place. Let everyone know what the HELIX is. We see the graphic behind you and what's going on there.
So look, the HELIX operating principle is to create an ecosystem that drives discovery, commercialization, education, and eventually economic development. I'm not sure if it's proof of concept or it's the old adage, I'd rather be lucky than good. But by the end of 2028, on 4 acres in downtown New Brunswick across from the train station, we will have built 1.5 million square feet, representing more than $2.3 billion in investment, and 4,000 chemists, medical students, physicists, biologists will be working, living, and researching, in a very collaborative environment.
And the potential impact to the people of the state and the region and the nation would be potentially?
Look, it's discovery and it's commercialization of life science, biotech, med tech, things that make our lives better. And in a microeconomic way, hopefully some of these companies that will spin out of universities, become startups and grow, will grow and hire folks, and it'll be part of the, bringing back the economic engine that pharma and biotech has always been in New Jersey.
Exciting stuff. Go ahead, Mary.
Chris, this show is all about innovation, discovery, and we've had you join us talking about the HELIX, but I would love to go back to the beginning. If you build it, they will come. What was the inspiration? How did you say one day, hey, we're going to build this thing in New Brunswick? And how did you have that vision? And why is that so important for leaders to step outside of the box, be creative, and be the big thinkers?
I always go back to bumping into a young physician researcher in Starbucks and having a conversation with her. I have a tendency.
Is that the Starbucks on George Street in New Brunswick?
Yes.
Okay. Only Rutgers people
That's an
would know
important
that.
fact for the story.
Go ahead.
And just struck up a conversation about what she did. She was a clinician, but she taught, and she was a diabetes researcher. What she said was missing from her experience is that, she had an academic lab, she saw patients, she taught students, and then she had a company that she and some of her colleagues had started, but she had to get in her car and drive a half an hour to some crappy flex space off of Route 130. And that what she really wanted to do was to go from her academic lab, see patients, check in with her colleagues that are in her company, and be able to do that across the street or down the block. We've now created something that's in one building, and we already have seasoned researchers who are going to work in the Rutgers Translational Research Center, which will be in the building, talking to us about moving their startup to the 9th floor where our incubator will be, so that they can take an elevator between their two research investments.
Along those lines, again, Mary, I was only half joking about the Starbucks on George Street in New Brunswick, in the heart of New Brunswick. But those of us who have a Rutgers connection and have spent a lot of time in New Brunswick know that George Street and what goes on there matters. A lot of Route 118, they all come together in that area. What impact do you believe the work you and your colleagues are doing, not just at DevCo, but at the HELIX, are having in the development of New Brunswick as a city?
Well, look, I think we start with, and I've always been fascinated by, and Tony Kosha and I used to talk about this when we first started, is that we dream things up, figure out a way to do them, and all these people who we don't know come to build them. There's probably 1,800 construction workers on the 3 ongoing sites that are right today that are contiguous in New Brunswick. So, that's kind of supporting people's lives. Right where I live today, where I work today, there's 5,000 people who already lived there that didn't live there when we started this adventure. We are as part of this project, we're building 265 more apartments. The Borai organization is building 300 more apartments right next door. We'll have another 1,000 people living in the heart of the city who go and shop and buy sub sandwiches and get coffee and become part of the economy. So, it works. It really does work. People talk about this theoretically, but if you build it, people come, people move in, and it creates traffic, which I get blamed for, but that's okay.
It is okay. By the way, Google Tony Kosha, Koscia, Tony, and a tremendous lawyer, very influential before the word influencer became popular. And also, I believe he still heads up Amtrak, or am I wrong on that, Chris?
Chairman of Amtrak.
Oh, yeah, that little corporation.
Right.
Mary, jump back in.
Chris, as an outsider looking in for the past couple of years, a leader in an organization is doing a great job. If, as an observer, it seems like everything's just going great, it's easy, you're watching it all happen, but nothing with change is super easy. What is the greatest leadership lesson you learned throughout the past few years when it comes to starting something from the ground up and getting those partnerships and getting the buy-in? What is the greatest leadership lesson you learned regarding that?
Never, ever, ever give up.
Hold on, what are you, Churchill right now?
I mean, you just show up every morning. Showing up is probably 80-90% of it. Most people, unfortunately, and particularly in institutions that you work, don't really want to step out of their safe space. But if you keep showing up and putting things in front of them, people will follow if they start to believe in you.
I mentioned Churchill. Mary, I got these ridiculous books. Mary, tell folks why the Leadership Library keeps evolving. Go on our website, stand-deliver.com.
One day you have to count your books, Steve. Do you know how many books you have in your in your overall library, not just your leadership?
Hundreds. We're always picking the top 10. Why does this book, Churchill on Leadership, why does it matter, Mary, in the Leadership Library?
It matters. You're a huge fan, obviously, but I think you'd be the better person to talk about that. I'm not punting, but you definitely are interested in his leadership style.
And what Chris knows the quote, and he knows he was stealing it in a good way. Churchill put it this way, Chris is going to do amazing things at the HELIX. Let's just say Churchill in World War II, never, never, never give up. I know it's not analogous, but I want to stay on that, Chris. I think a lot about this because Mary and I, we lead our not-for-profit that you know well, our not-for-profit media production company affiliated with public broadcasting, facing difficult challenges at this time, as Chris well knows. But here's the thing. How the heck do you keep the positive attitude when things are going wrong, when things you try fall short, failure, without quitting? Where does that come from, A? And B, do you believe that there's less of this so-called grit in younger people today? Loaded question, I know.
Unfortunately, I agree with you. I think it has a lot to do with culturally how we've all been raised. but maybe we will see grit come from different populations, and that kind of drives the advancement of different cultures, I think. Look, you have to learn from failure, because if you don't learn from failure, so if you turn it immediately into something positive, you kind of promise yourself you're not going to do it again, you tweak something, but it really is about sometimes keeping a stiff upper lip, sometimes it's not letting them see you sweat until you figure it out. When we finally resolve some very big problems, quite often Marissa and Sarah, who are kind of the triumvirate that runs this company.
Your team.
Yeah. We sit around and say, nobody realized how bad this really was, and we fixed it, but we don't really get credit for it. And it's asking for help too. It's asking for help. I mean, I'm very fortunate in New Brunswick. I've got folks like Jim Cahill, who's the mayor, who I can kind of go to when there's something, an issue that we're trying to work out and we just don't seem to see the answer. He really helps us see things clearly. Members of my board, like George Zoffinger and Tony Kosha, as we talked about, having people that you have spent a long period of time with and trust and don't necessarily mind showing, to them a little weakness maybe. Or
Vulnerability.
Yes.
Vulnerability. I don't have the answer.
Right.
I'm trying to, Mary, I know we've talked to Chris so many times on lessons in leadership, but the issue of leaders, I'm not going to go down this rabbit hole. There are some leaders or people in leadership positions who believe that showing vulnerability, Chris, you call it weakness, but vulnerability, and I don't have the answers, is weak leadership. My argument is it's exceptional leadership as opposed to faking that you have the answer and doing something stupid because you're cocky and arrogant. Last word. Go ahead, Chris.
No, I totally agree with you. This is asking people for help, and being able to get a different perspective is just kind of solid operating procedure, I think.
Yeah, Mary and I do that a lot because I often ask Mary what the answer is, and she often has it. Chris Paladino, president of DevCo, New Brunswick Development Corporation, all about the HELIX. We'll keep talking with Chris as the project moves forward. And Chris, you're a great partner and friend. All the best. Thanks.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Lessons in Leadership. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague, Mary Gamba, has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media. Welcome back to Lessons in Leadership. Hey, Mary, listen, I want to follow up on the conversation with Chris Paladino. Let's put up a lower third. Sylvester, put up a lower third. This is about failure, but I'll give you the direct quote. Failure equals opportunity. Mary, I got this new book that we'll add to our leadership library. It is called First Thing Every Morning, Turn Your Life Around One Day at a Time. It's from Louis Timberlake. And the truth is, I've been reading it every morning.
That's
right?
great.
Well, I didn't say I'd do everything in the book.
No, but hey, every journey starts with a single step, Steve.
Yeah, so this is a section on failure. I got a couple. Mary's got the best quotes in the world, but Mary, here's some new ones I want to add. And I want you to react to it. Failure doesn't mean I'm a failure. It just means that I haven't yet succeeded. What about people who connect failing with being, why are you laughing?
Reread that one more time. I want to process it again. Because at first, all right, read it one more time.
Doesn't mean I'm a failure. It just means that I haven't succeeded. So here's what I often argue. You can't fail unless you get up at bat and try.
Agreed.
You can never fail if you don't try. So failing at something doesn't make you a failure. That's the thing I want you to react to.
That 100%. If you took that away from it, I agree completely. When I first heard it, the reason that I laughed is I heard it as black or white, win or lose, fail or succeed. And that's how I first read the quote, because we talk about that all the time. It's not always shades of, it's not always black and white. Sometimes there's shades of gray. So if we have a funder that we're going after, and we talk about this all the time, right? And you don't always have to win in the way that you thought you were going to win in order to succeed. You need to also be a little bit nimble. So that's why I have not picked up that book yet, but I'm interested to hear more quotes because I'm curious to hear the tone of those. I just felt like that one was black and white.
Well, you
And,
know
and
what?
leadership
And,
and success and failure is not black and white.
but how about that, Mary? This is interesting. Just yesterday, we, quote, failed to secure sponsorship with a new prospect, right?
Correct.
And it sucked. There was nothing fun about it. But within a few minutes, you and I started talking about the opportunity that it created for us.
Agreed.
But the first reaction is not,
Oh, darn.
yes.
Well, because
Yes.
you take it personally, you take it, what could we have done differently? What should we have done differently? And even, as you know, my son Joey's an actor and they go on a million auditions. It's nothing about you. You just are not the right fit for them. You are not the right fit for the role. So in this situation, what we were proposing was not the right fit for that organization. It doesn't make us less than. They didn't say
That's right.
that. They don't see the value in what we're doing.
Yeah, one more quick one. How about this one? I'm going to try something. This is from Robert Schuller. I think Schuller. I think he's a pastor. I
Okay.
think I've seen him on one of those Sunday morning pastor things when they ask for money. Failure is never final and success is never ending. Success is a journey, not a destination. Failure is never final. Success is never ending. Mary, I succeeded. We're done.
I love that one. No.
Well, why do you like it?
I absolutely love that one. The first quote to me was yes or no, black and white. This one shows that there's shades, that there's gradients, that you're going to go through ebbs and flows in the leadership journey. And I truly believe that that's the case in anything you do in life. So if you always see things as black and white or fail or succeed, you don't always succeed. But you want to know what? We're all getting a heck of a lot better every single day. So to me, that is success in and of itself.
And earlier on, Dr. Ken Sable talked about the commitment to constant improvement. I know we've talked about this before, but why is the obsession with constant improvement for leaders not an option, but a requirement?
You have to constantly grow. You can't be rigid as a leader. You need to be agile. So part of that is accepting that and putting that into your culture and your DNA as a leader.
All right, got a few seconds left. I go and you go. It's managed time. One area where in 2026, we're taping this at the beginning of 2026. It'll be seen probably in spring when it gets a little warmer than it is now.
Mm-hmm.
One area that you need to improve upon in 2026 to keep growing as a leader.
I need to be more patient. That is a super easy. It is something I've worked on for a long time. I have not made the traction that I need to. I need to be more patient. What is one area you are going to work on in 2026?
No, I'm more obsessed with your patience issue.
Okay, go ahead.
No. By the way, Mary,
Notice I wasn't patient. I had to throw it back to you.
yeah, patience is something I'm working. No, I'm not even joking right now. And we didn't coordinate this. I'm working on being more patient as well. How about this? Patient with a sense
With
of
a sense
urgency.
of urgency.
Yes, yeah, with a sense of urgency. It's not a contradiction. We'll talk about that next time. For Mary Gamba and myself, for our entire team, Lessons in Leadership, we'll see you next time. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Vicino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, NJ Transit, the North Ward Center, O'Toole Scrivo, Gingoli Construction, New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the HELIX, Fedway Associates Inc., the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, inspiring great minds to greater purpose since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.
Great drive fuels the leaders of tomorrow and today. Great vision paves the way for a brighter future. Great ambition goes places, moving onward and upward. Great empathy finds strength in kindness and in each other. working together to create something bigger than they ever imagined. Great minds can change the world, and great minds start at Seton Hall.